as the census data is coming in, it is clear that some areas are growing faster than others. Both because of immigration from outside of the United States, but also populations inside of the United States moving from one area to another. So let's talk about some of the ways that that's manifesting. So first of all, Philadelphia is now the 6th largest city in the US. It has been bumped from 5th by Phoenix, which was the fastest growing of the top 20 largest cities. Its population rose by 11.2% in just this last decade. So Phoenix has been growing very fast, but not the fastest. That goes to The Villages, a retirement community in Florida, the fastest growing metropolitan area in the entire country. And look, I'm gonna say I don't know a lot about The Villages aside from when it occasionally pops up in the news, but that doesn't seem immediately like great news. I don't know, Brett, is that irrational to think that that Florida getting bigger in any way is probably gonna have negative consequences for America?
I mean, it's a physical aggregator of an aging population. The Villages is like a large scale retirement community for all intents and purposes. It's my ideal retirement community just because they have golf carts and there could be lions roaming free on the streets and I'd still be happy about it because I'd be able to drive a golf cart everywhere. There's something fun about that. But that is, I think that's the big takeaway. If we're talking census, if we're talking demographics, it is a place. Like the main challenge, I don't know if you're gonna get to this, but the main challenge is an urbanizing population. So people are moving from rural areas to urban. And when you say urban, there's a lot of places where that's a code word for just like racially diverse, but I literally just mean in this situation,
a city.
Like a city. People are moving to cities, which if you think the districts are gerrymandered and weird looking now, just wait a second, because it's all gonna be like a giant city that's this big. And they're either going to draw rings around it, so that all the suburban areas outside are one district, or it's gonna be like bicycle spokes. It's gonna be the center city with a tiny little area that pokes in for a certain group, and it might come in like a finger and then just go out into rural sprawling areas radially, like pieces of a pie. That's what's gonna be what they look like. So you're still gonna have wildly gerrymandered districts, and you're gonna see them look crazier and crazier in these specific states that a lot of us conceive to be purple, where they've been able to do it on a state level, where the state legislature is disproportionately represented by Republicans when compared to like the overall popular vote. And they're just gonna make it weirder and weirder because they're in charge of drawing these lines, and there is no federal mechanism or like universal mechanism state by state that will allow people to check these for partisan gerrymandering, period.
Yeah, now there could be, we could pass the For the People Act. The Democrats have it entirely within their power to do that, but it's probably not gonna happen, so you're right. Yeah, and I was thinking about this recently, how crazy is it? I know that there's a lot about American democracy that's crazy, but we had a time, go back just a few years, and the Republicans were fairly overrepresented already in terms of they're only so popular, they have more power. So since then, they lost the House, they lost the presidency, they lost the Senate. And after all of that losing, they're gonna be even more overrepresented than they were before. So somehow Democrats overcoming all of these hurdles and gaining political power in some ways can't, and in other ways, as we were just alluding to, won't stop a continued like accumulation of political power in an increasingly unpopular minority party. But that's unfortunate in our country.
I mean, it's just like greenhouse effect. Like that's what's crazy about it.
Is it?
It intensifies, it's bad, and then it just intensifies because the same way that like greenhouse gases trap heat and we keep creating heat, it compounds on itself.
That's true.
The insulating factor of gerrymandering and disproportionate representation in those states makes it worse and worse. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and as I've been saying, we also want to get an idea of how this is going to translate into political power. And so, thankfully, Brett and I are experts on that. No, we're not. I don't know. I'm just going to be looking to those who apparently are for whatever reason. So, some of the people who either have it as their official job or have a reputation of most of the time getting some things right, grains of salt all over the place, have responded to the census data saying things like this. So Dave Wasserman said, early read, based on the strong urban and weaker rural numbers I'm seeing, this is a much more favorable census count than minority advocacy groups and Dems had feared. He went on to say Democrats have reason to be happy. He cited the higher than expected population tallies in New York and Chicago and the steady growth of the nation's Hispanic population. So what that's a reference to is something that if you've been watching the show for a long time, you know we've done like 50 videos about this over the past few years. Many Democrats had feared that Latino and urban voters would be badly undercounted amid the coronavirus pandemic and the Trump administration's effort to ask about citizenship status. So there were a lot of reasons over the past few years to think that some populations might be significantly undercounted. It is still entirely possible that that has happened, whether it's Hispanic voters or young voters or voters in particular cities. But so far, the results don't scream out that that is likely what happened. And to focus on just a couple areas, Georgia is just 50.1% non-Hispanic white now. That has been dropping. It could be majority minority, since a lot of these results are coming from more than a year ago. So in terms of the Democrats' odds of maintaining those Senate seats, that's going to help them by a couple percentage points. So in terms of some of this early stuff, Brett, what do you think?
I mean, the way the census handles Hispanic as a term, as a concept, is one of the most fascinating things about the census, which itself is very boring and very tedious. Other, ethnicities, races, or whatever, as they boil down to white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, those are very cut and dry. But as people hear like non-Hispanic white, I don't know about this last one, but traditionally it's been like Hispanic, Hispanic Black, Hispanic white, but it's not. It's different from white, Black, Asian. It's kind of this weird floating category. So that's one aspect of it that I think is just very interesting. It's like, why is this race different from all others? That's one part of it. The Black group, I just want to say, staying at the same percentage of the population, I just want to call out like, oh, dear Republicans, I thought the whole thing was they were having a bunch of kids so they could get on welfare. So really, there should be a larger percentage of the population based on how you have characterized Black people in America going back decades and decades, if not centuries and centuries, essentially.
Yeah.
That's another thing. But the census is very strange. It's so important because it's how we draw up lines for representation. And then it's so boring because it's just counting a lot of people. But
I know, and obviously that makes it a risky A block, like starting off the census, but I find it fascinating and it is super important. Like the stakes were super important. We did a lot of talking about it, as I said, and we are going to see what happens. I hope that talk about all this puts more pressure on the Democrats to pass the For the People Act. It probably will not come to pass, but obviously a lot is riding on this.
And the last part about the Hispanic population as it relates to electoral politics is you turn on any big news station and they will say the Hispanic population translates to votes for Democrats, which is just not as true as they want you to believe it is for various reasons. One, it's not like a uniform chunk of people.
In any way, yeah.
They all speak the same language, but does that put Americans on the same, are we the same as people from Belize because they speak English there? Like, is that, would you equate those two? Or are they Latin Americans? Like that's a big question mark, but that's how people lump them together. But you have a lot of differing circumstances, largely due to the nature of American interventionism and how people feel about Republicans and Democrats. You got Cubans, you got people who are fleeing certain countries that either America set up or has tried to set up the governments of and failed. So it's not a uniform block. And then there's differing opinions on immigration as a key voter issue based on whether you want more or don't want more, because your family either got through and you don't want others to get through, or you went through the, people are like, I went by the rules. This is similar to how people feel about college debt forgiveness.
Agreed.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.